people buy from people. And so if you're not consistently growing the followers that follow the thought leadership of your executives, you're missing an impact there because people buy from people. And that is like an awareness metric. Who cares about the company page these days? Like the company page size, if you get to 1,000 and you're an SMB, like 500 employees or less, you're doing pretty good.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from turning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, running a marketing agency is challenging enough, right? Finding clients, delivering results, managing teams. But what if there was a way to differentiate your agency while simultaneously creating more predictable revenue? Many agency owners find themselves stuck in the feast or famine cycle, constantly chasing new clients while trying to keep existing ones happy. But the traditional agency model can feel like you're always starting from scratch, having to prove your worth with each new prospect. But what if there was a way to instantly establish credibility, create recurring revenue, and position your agency as a true strategic partner rather than just another service provider? What if you could leverage an established platform's reputation and resources to grow your agency? Well, that's exactly what some forward thinking agencies are doing through strategic platform partnerships. And today's guest knows this journey firsthand. Ali Schwanke is the founder of Simple Strat, a growth marketing agency that has successfully leveraged platform partnerships, particularly with HubSpot, to build a thriving agency. Ali has not only transformed her own agency through this strategy, but has helped countless other businesses implement and optimize their marketing technology stacks. She's here to pull back the curtain on how platform partnerships can be a game changer for agency growth. Hey, Ali, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So glad you're here. Before we dive into partnerships, tell us a little bit more about your agency journey, and what led you to become a platform implementation partner.
Yeah, I think like a lot of agency founders, you don't wake up and say, I'm going to be a platform implementation partner. Like that wasn't like a thing I filled out when I was in second grade about what I wanted to be when I grew up. In fact, my whole life, I love solving problems. And so I thought maybe I'd have a career in medicine. And ultimately, I feel like, I'm kind of the doctor of business in some regards. But we started as a marketing strategy agency and actually found that the platforms were a way for us to establish, kind of like you mentioned in the intro, a way for us to establish our credibility and our expertise. And so we became a HubSpot partner. And actually, that's a big part of our journey because how we eventually went to market was with videos. So now if you search YouTube, you search for a HubSpot tutorial, there's a good chance you'll see me and my team among 180 of our videos online. We rank for a lot of those. And now we actually do a lot of work in the ecosystem and more specifically just in HubSpot as a CRM partner as a result of kind of our go-to-market motion. So it's been fun. And I think a lot of people have kind of been curious about what's happened along our journey. And we've been happy to share some of those secrets because I think we can all kind of benefit from the groundswell of business that comes from it.
I can relate to that a lot because I know a lot of us went to school for something very, very different. I went to school for history and computer science, which is not what I'm doing today, but it often gives me that great perspective
Mhm.
on where we're at as a society and where we're at as marketers. And I'd love if you could share some of the initial challenges or maybe the hesitations that you faced when you were thinking about becoming a HubSpot partner or just that route in general.
Yeah. So what's funny is when we became a HubSpot partner, I knew about HubSpot. I'd used it for a couple of different companies, and what happened along the way was we decided we wanted to put our credibility behind something again that would help us. At the time, we were thinking like we're going to get more leads, we're going to become a partner, and actually like use that as some of our marketing message. And all that became true. But what happened? So at the time, my business partner Tyler actually was the one that led us through the HubSpot partner journey. And so what I think maybe believed at the time is you become a partner, you get a badge, you put it on your website, and suddenly people start calling you. Well, let's be honest, that doesn't happen quite that way. And I think we think that about, I just need the right certification and my career will take off. And it's just a little piece of the recipe. So we took over as the user group leaders in the state that I'm in, which we're no longer just state based, we're nationwide, but the state that I'm in. And again, we led the user group but just really felt like it wasn't doing what we needed it to do. And again, fast forward, I think the thing that I learned and become a partner is really thinking about it like a go-to-market plan. Like, what is your go-to-market plan with that partnership? What sort of value does it drive for you? Again, for us, HubSpot was just releasing their CRM at that time. I had been in the Salesforce ecosystem prior, and I knew the power of a CRM baked with a fully automated marketing tool. And so that's ultimately why we decided to make the jump at that time. We've brought on a couple other partnerships since, but similar thinking, like, where's the market going? How can we better serve it? And will this partner be a piece of our bigger strategy, not just like a tool in our tool belt?
And now, to your point, a lot of software as a service providers have partner
Yeah.
programs, but I think we can all agree that HubSpot is probably the gold standard when it comes to agency partner programs. And so we'll be talking about them a lot today. But what if you could kind of walk us through the process of becoming a HubSpot implementation partner, and what does that actually mean for an agency?
Yeah, I think the hard thing today is everybody realizes that channel partnerships is a way to go to market. And so not a day goes by that I don't get a pitch in my inbox that's a new software, they're releasing a partner program and they're offering 20% commissions and here's your affiliate link. And that's kind of just table stakes now. Like, I'm not going to represent you if you don't actually have some sort of commission payout, but for us, like, one of the things that we so back when we became a partner, it was probably different than it is today because there was only probably hundreds of partners. Now there's thousands of partners. There's solution partners, service partners. So what I've learned is what used to be well known and understood as being a HubSpot partner, and that used to feel somewhat exclusive. Now it feels like there's a whole bunch of us. And so differentiation among even just the partnerships is critical, not just differentiation among other agencies. So when we became a partner, one of the first things that we did is we went through their certification. We, we white labeled a couple of their offers, put those on our website, got the decks, did a couple of meetups and things just so we could understand what the conversation was like around the platform, what sort of problems people were having. That was all very important. When it really started to take off for us, though, was when we started creating content around our ability for us to serve people using that platform. So, again, for those of you who don't know who I am or if haven't seen us on YouTube, we run a channel called HubSpot Hacks. And really, for me, Mike, that was the biggest catalyst for us and being a partner is creating content that validated that we knew what we were talking about relative to our partnership. So if I had just put that we were a partner and so what so is 15 other people at this conference, but we have a YouTube channel that demonstrates that value. Now it's different. So as we got deeper into that partnership, there's things you have to hit, and so we had to set goals of new business development. But a lot of those goals became realized as a result of our content engine, not just by simply going through the motions of what they asked us to do as a partner.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact, I think the second episode of this podcast, I was interviewing an agency where they'd obviously started with HubSpot quite a bit further down the
Mhm.
road than you. I think he was saying when he joined, there were 8 or 9,000
Oh, wow.
partners, and he was really bemoaning how challenging it was to stand out
Yeah.
right amongst that literal sea of sameness. But that's really fascinating how you're describing your journey. And I love that you were leaning into creating content, of course. How has being an implementation partner maybe changed your agency's positioning and its ability to attract clients?
Yeah, one of the first things that we did was we said we were going to be focusing on HubSpot, but we didn't really say like exclusively you have to use HubSpot to work with us. So it was just kind of one of the tools in our toolbox. And as we launched the YouTube channel again, like, what's funny is the YouTube channel wasn't, I'd love to say at the time that we were so smart that that was our go to market motion. And like all entrepreneurial sort of kind of experiments, that was one thing that we sort of just kind of tried, and then we started to double down on where customers were asking for our help. And so a lesson there would be, one thing that you think you might use your partnership for, like, be open to what customers in the market say, because that's really how business works. But as we started hearing folks say they need help with HubSpot, we had a decision to make as an agency, and that was, are we going to continue to support people on MailChimp and Constant Contact and Zoho and other places like that? And the answer to that was it was getting harder and harder to remain an expert in those, while also everyone knows HubSpot has changed and continues to change. It's one of the fastest changing technologies in the marketing and tech space. So we went all in. And so now today, we are a HubSpot implementation partner, but we do not work in any other CRMs. We integrate maybe an external CRM with HubSpot, but we do not work in anything net new. We don't set up anything net new. It's all HubSpot. So that was a decision that we had to make. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to amass the expertise we have, because now instead of seeing 2 use cases in Zoho a week and 3 in Salesforce and, 10 in HubSpot and 7 in Mailchimp, we're now seeing, 40 instances and 40 challenges and whatever on a weekly basis, plus all the calls and all the questions we're getting on our YouTube channel. The speed of knowledge acquisition and expertise is just like it's 10 times what it was before.
I've got two follow-up questions. One, how long did it take your YouTube channel to really demonstrate some traction, to kind of show you, oh, okay, this is working? And the second is, do you or are you ever concerned about the fact that now as an agency, you are almost seemingly fully dependent on a completely different business platform?
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely, I think with the further I get in my entrepreneurial journey, like I've taken a lot of time this last year to think more about like I'm going to be a good entrepreneur and not just a good HubSpot, teacher or a good agency owner. Like I am an entrepreneur and I don't even think about it quote unquote agency owner some days. I'm like we sell services,
Mm.
let's get inspired by other business models. But a lot of businesses have proven that that can be a liability. But we look at the ecosystem and we look at, there's plenty of very successful service firms that have built a operation on Salesforce, for example, and been acquired by places like Accenture or, Boston Consulting. And so I think as I think about our trajectory as a company, I think about what types of services might we offer that are strategy based, that are implemented in a tool like HubSpot, but don't necessarily restrict us from having that domain knowledge of how to build, like, let's say, a RevOps engine. So, kind of mitigating that balance a little bit. But the platform continues to show really good growth for us. And we continue to win business because we have just more deeper expertise. So right now I'm gonna continue to play that fiddle
Yep.
and see, where it goes. But I think there's good opportunity for us.
Cool, cool. And the YouTube channel, how
Oh
did that
yeah. So
go?
oh my, so what I love to tell people is, again, in hindsight, this could be a really great story. But at the time it was, we had a couple of videos on our regular channel. So if you go to find us, we do have a simple strat channel and it is sad. Like Mike, it is so sad. I mean, it's probably like better than the majority of agency channels where they have,
Yeah,
like 20 followers and 10 are their relatives. But
right.
we have maybe 1,600 followers or subscribers on this simple strat channel. And the simple strat channel was like, we tried to do some videos that were kind of funny. We tried to do some that were brands. We had testimonials. Knowing what I now know about YouTube, I would look at that channel and be like, bad. That's bad. But we did use that channel to do what we had the original idea for our HubSpot tutorials. And that is, at the time, nobody was creating short, to the point tutorials that were just like, get to the point, people. None of this life story stuff. And so that was our idea. It was just like Loom was very new. I'm an early adopter of video technology. We shot Looms and put them up on YouTube and just put like a little kind of like intro slide on it. Well, we had a couple of those and they were so simple, stupid, Mike. It was like how to connect your HubSpot to Gmail. Well, the reason why we created it is because we would send it to a client, we would tell them, we'd give them step by step instructions, and then they're like, I don't get it. And so, hello, we just shoot a Loom for them, send it over. So after we did that and we noticed that a couple of those videos had some views on them, like it was like a month and one of them had 1,000 views. We didn't know what we were doing. I didn't read a YouTube book. I was just like, this is interesting. So then we thought, what if we just rolled this out into a separate brand? Because our goal at the time was not lead gen. Our goal at the time was just like seeing if we could build some subscribers on YouTube. That was the whole experiment. So we launched the channel, I think it was like May or June of 2019. And we produced videos weekly for about 6 months on a separate channel. We actually treated it as its own brand, had its own brand kit and everything. And then in December, I took a look at it and I thought, we only have like, I don't know, it was sad. It was like 120 subscribers. So those of you that have a goal of like hitting 1,000 in the first year, like I hear ya. Like, it's hard. But then I went back and looked at the channel, and I'm a strategist by nature. And I looked at the channel and we were using tags like, oh my gosh, Mike, it was like Midwest and like Adobe. And like my current self wants to just like jump out of my skin because tags, I mean, if you are a YouTuber, like tags may or may not be as influential. They used to be, but still, it was
Still.
just sad. Our description, oh my gosh, Mike, our description was like shot on a Sony, blah, 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 and edited with this blah, blah, blah. And I'm just embarrassed because now it's not on there. But if you went in the Wayback Machine, you'd find it. So I went through and re-optimized all those videos. And then we did that so now, then we put a practice in motion where we said, what's happening on the channel? What is it telling us? What should we do? And so we did that for a couple months. And what we found was a couple of video styles that really started to drive views. And then
Mm,
we said, what if we stick a bottom of funnel offer? Like literally, again, just like we have the traffic. So we were getting at that point, like there's a couple of videos that I think had maybe like 15,000 views. And we said, what if we put a bottom of funnel there? Can we just get any consultations? And oh my God, we started to get a couple of people that would book. Like if you're in business and the first time you get someone that books a meeting with you that doesn't know you or your grandma or your neighbor, and you're like, I have a real business.
right.
What is going on here? Well, so we started to see that. And then the perfect storm happened for us, which was the world shut down because of COVID. And everybody, like half their teams were gone, and everyone left behind is like, what the heck is this HubSpot thing? And HubSpot at the time had no tutorials on their own channel. Everybody found us. So like super
Got it.
perfect storm for us. But like, had we not invested at the time, I'm telling you, Mike, nobody else in the industry was making YouTube videos in
Mhm.
the agency space because they all were looking for direct response in terms of like lead gen. And we just knew it was a long-term play. So anyway, all that to be said, the growth of the channel finally then really blew up during COVID because everyone's digital. They're all HubSpot had a heyday. Every tech company had a heyday. We were getting a lot of traffic. We started hearing that HubSpot was using our videos for their own social. We started seeing that they hired a YouTube team. They were watching what we were doing. And now, PS, like, they do a lot of stuff we do. So it's been really fun. But I think the patience that was involved in growing that was really important. And then at the same time, we just had to lean into it. And yes, it was a risk, but it was a risk that if we didn't take it, we would have to probably grind a lot harder on the sales front than we did.
That's super powerful advice, I think, to anybody listening, whether you're thinking about partnering with HubSpot or some other platform, or you don't necessarily even have to partner with that platform
Mhm,
to create great content about the platforms that your target audience has questions about. And to your point about concern about, hitching your trailer to another platform, at Agorapulse. That's something we are scared about nonstop every day because obviously we're
mhm,
at the whim and dependency of social platforms. We saw that in 2023 when Twitter, then X, decided to change their
mhm,
API. And I mean,
mhm.
that was just a death knell blow to a lot of platforms, other providers in the social media space that just couldn't afford to spend $500,000
Oh
on
my gosh,
access
yeah.
to an X API. But I want to talk a little bit more though about now your agency. You become a HubSpot partner. You're getting people coming in. What's different about the sales process when you're selling that kind of implementation service versus just like traditional agency marketing services?
Yeah, so we've got two ways to think about it. And one of the things that I think is important in the more you do consulting in the sales space, the more this becomes clear. But you've got your inbound sales process and then you've got an outbound sales process, or maybe like one that's a little more needs more education. So with the types of services that we do, we're demonstrating a lot of our expertise online, and we'll hear that folks have watched several of our videos, or we'll hear things like, I've been following your channel for the last year, or we have a project next year and I know that I want to work with you guys. And so we spent a lot more time, on calls talking about the actual thing that we would do because we've already kind of earned that trust. Whereas I think other agencies might have like a pitch deck and a thing that they need to demonstrate their expertise with, and we don't have that as much. I think in the marketing agent space, one thing that's been helpful for us is when you use a tool like HubSpot and you sell services around setting up that platform, and you sell the ability for you to streamline your sales process, for example. There's a lot of data through the platform that makes it possible for us to show our value. Whereas sometimes when you're in a marketing capacity and they bring you on, there's this whole like setup period and kind of ramp up, and the clients might get antsy because there's not results there yet, and you have to tell them to trust you. And so it's not that we don't still have that. It's just because we're working in the platform and we kind of can build something in front of their eyes. I think it provides like that tangible view of the value that maybe sometimes when you sell marketing services or packages, it's a little bit harder up front to demonstrate that progress.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love just how much you're basically promoting a good, solid content marketing strategy. To your point, a lot of agencies don't do that for themselves, even though they may do that for their clients. Folks, we're talking with Ali about the potential for agency growth when you leverage an existing platform's capabilities and audience. And I've got seven more questions for her you're not going to want to miss. But first, let me share with you how another agency is leveraging the power of Agorapulse to grow and scale.
One, I love social media. I love what we do. I love one of my sayings is that I feel like we're changing the world one post at a time. And the positivity, it's just, who I am. Currently, we are growing leaps and bounds. We just in the last couple of years have expanded our office. We're getting ready to expand again. We manage over 150 accounts just on Agora Pulse. So it has to be user-friendly for me and everyone that works with it, and it has to be something that I know that I can rely on, that I can trust. Like I said, and the biggest feature that we have is just the dashboard, that it is so easy to use and that anybody can use it. And actually, one of the reasons why I switched from the company that I had used before was that the lack thereof of customer service. It's definitely been, if not the best, one of the best companies to deal with as far as customer service.
So I know if I harken back to my agency days, which were a long time ago, but many other agency owners listening will kind of bemoan this with me. Often we're going through this cycle of we got a new client and we got maybe multiple new clients, and then we got some revenue coming in, and then we get some clients who are churning, and now we're struggling. We got to lay people off because we have a lack of revenue, and then we bring on new people. We got to bring on new clients, and so on. And it's just this roller coaster ride. How has a partnership model affected your agency's revenue stability and client retention?
Yeah, I think you still have to have a healthy perspective on how you think about business development, because that still strikes us too. I mean, I think that we were just talking before we started recording here on, this is an election year that we're recording this podcast during, and there was a lot of stalled B2B deals, industry agnostic through the B2B space, and so you almost have to rely on some winters, I guess you could say, from a sales perspective. But from a partnership, you always have something, or you should always have something new to bring to your clients to talk about. And it's never about the features. So we were just talking about this relative to our next upcoming campaign and sort of us planning 2025. And it's not about HubSpots. So for instance, they've now got a couple tools inside of their platform. So Breeze AI is a new enrichment. It was their acquisition of Clearbit that's now baked into the platform, and it's an enrichment of data. It also makes it possible for them to do what's traditionally known as buyer intent. It's called HubSpot buyer intent. And the buyer intent's not the piece. But if we were to reach out to our current prospect database and say, hey, you know what, there's some new functionality probably already available to you, and it needs to be set up, but you could actually see what companies are hitting your website and interested in your services based on your target markets. Would you like to have a call about that? Because I could actually show that how you might get access to that right now. So that is how I like to think about agency partnerships. I think that's true of Agora Pulse too, where there's things or there's trends or things that have changed in the marketplace, and you can use your partnership and some of their credibility and their new features to position yourself to talk about the problems in light of what's newly available in that partnership.
That's a terrific example. We're about to release support for Threads
Mm,
publishing,
huge,
right?
huge.
Which is a huge opportunity then for every agency that's using Agorapulse to go to their clients and say, "Hey, look, if you haven't gotten on Threads yet,
Hmm.
they're announcing that they're up to almost 300 million monthly users. They're surpassing X in
Hmm.
usability. You guys should be on Threads. Let's talk about that." And of course, then they get to use Agorapulse and upsell the additional profiles and all the extra things that have to go
Hmm.
into. Now they got to support a Threads account, which is great. That's, I think, probably one of the hidden benefits of platform partnerships. What are some other benefits that an agency owner um, might not know about or might not have considered if they're looking at partnering with a platform?
Yeah, if you haven't taken full advantage of talking to your partnership rep. So I was actually just talking to a potential partner we're looking at, I guess, partnering with here in 2025. And the benefit is asking questions like, tell me what you're seeing in this space. Who do you know that can help me with X? Like really using that partnership as not just a, like, we kind of have a badge that we put on our website and sell these services, but it becomes a knowledge and a connection resource for you. Because if I, again, if we were in the social space, more like maybe some of the folks that are using Agora Pulse across clients, I'd want to know, you know what, with this new Threads feature coming out, what agency is a Threads power user, and who could I talk to maybe to get some insight that's a non-competitive sort of discussion. That I think is an underutilized part of a partnership. And the other thing is, if you haven't done this, I know with HubSpot specifically, they have different levels of their partnerships. And every year they release a what, is under the, let's call it like elite partnership level. Are you taking full advantage of all those things? So for us, like, we can be able to publish on their community blog because of the level that we're at. We get a chance to co-brand some webinars. We have a chance to pitch stories for their sales blog. Are we doing those things? If we're not, we're missing out on some of the value that we really could get from that partnership.
I love that approach. That makes a lot of sense. One of the questions I love to ask every agency, regardless of HubSpot usage, is how are you currently measuring the business impact of social media? That's something that a lot of our
Mm,
clients and users they're struggling with. Well, I would say every business that's using social media, they're often struggling to make that connection, right, between the things that they're doing on
mhm.
social and how that's moving the needle for the business. How are you approaching that?
Yeah, we definitely have a strong propensity for numbers. And so there's a couple things. So we're B2B. So again, I can't say B2C specifically because that's not my expertise. But for B2B, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is going to be the importance of brand followers among the executives of the company on LinkedIn. So we know that people buy from people. And so if you're not consistently growing the followers that follow the thought leadership of your executives, you're missing an impact there because people buy from people. And that is like an awareness metric. Who cares about the company page these days? Like the company page size, if you get to 1,000 and you're an SMB, like 500 employees or less, you're doing pretty good. Stay at 1,000. Don't worry about driving it from there because that's all you need from a credibility standpoint. I would say the other thing is, are you tracking that so that you're able to retain that original source data in your CRM? So when we look at the impact of social, I'm looking at where are we promoting our webinars, where are we promoting our videos, and where are we promoting our email list. So you have to have some sort of conversion mechanism to figure out where someone came from. But I'll tell you, Mike, every month we do 2 webinars. And I've gotten really easy about some of the UTM tracking as of lately. 50% of our registrants from our last webinar came from LinkedIn.
Hmm.
15% of those came from Twitter. A big portion of those came from our email list, YouTube, and then we've got actually some like random in there from we've got Reddit, we've got Instagram. If you follow the path of those people, we really haven't gotten strategic, Mike, on Instagram. How much more could we be getting from Instagram because we just tossed up a couple of random stories with some links in there? And could we actually get more from that if we tried a little harder? So we know LinkedIn's huge. We play a lot there, but I've still had a lot of brands that say LinkedIn hasn't delivered for me, and I look at them and I say that's because all you're doing is putting a paid ad in front of people. That's not how the world works now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that focus on numbers because you're right. That can be so telling where there are missed opportunities or just misses purely. With that campaign didn't go very well, or that channel's not working very well. So let's stop putting time and effort there and redirect it to another channel that has more potential. It's showing more interest. So, what are some of the tools or the resources that you'd say have been most valuable in your journey as an agency and or on this path of being an implementation partner?
Oh goodness. I people that know me well know I have so many tools and so many resources that I use, but I would say, it kind of comes down to people, processes, and then tools. Like that's really how things shake out. So, you have to have really good people that are open to learning, that want to provide a good experience, that are able to get past their own curse of knowledge because once you've done things for a while, again, once you've worked on threads for a while, how can people not know how to use threads, right? And that happens to be true when you've used HubSpot for as long as you have. Like, how can someone not log their emails? Like, how hard is that? Well, you've been doing it for 6 years. So let's think about that again. But I think people's one, the processes that you follow are going to be important. So if there's anything that's benefited me the most, it's talking to other agency owners about their onboarding process. I've gone to a lot of webinars from folks like yourself and others in this space that help agencies think through their process, not trying to reinvent the wheel. And then tool wise, we use a lot of things to map things out for clients. So Lucid Chart is definitely a favorite. Google Sheets, planning and organizing things with Airtable is huge. Definitely LinkedIn and using tools like Phantom Buster, Dripify, anything that helps us kind of promote connections there. And then I'd say probably the last one would be any AI tools. We use a lot of ChatGPT, a lot of Claude, a lot of the like Adobe Suite, Canva, Post Nitro. Again, I could probably stop there. The script is probably one of my favorites as well. We also use StreamYard to do some LinkedIn lives. So making sure that every tool has a purpose. But I think that nowadays it's about creating content that's effective for each platform. So finding that right tool as opposed to trying to just like blanket everybody with the same approach. That's probably the hardest part of all of those tools, people, and processes.
Okay, first of all, that was a huge tool stack.
And that's not even the
Fortunately
gist of it. We'll do a thing later.
yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
fortunately, everybody listening, my VA will go back through there and he'll find every single tool and every single link. They'll all be down below. And if you want to go down a rabbit hole and learn about all the different tools that Ali is using and mentioned, all those links will be there. But the one thing that I think you suggested, which I appreciate, is the fact that obviously AI is becoming more and more important. I have a whole other podcast just about AI and marketing.
Hmm.
But to your point, a lot of these tools already have AI baked in.
Hmm.
Adobe, you mentioned Canva, HubSpot, of course, Salesforce with their Einstein. So we don't necessarily have to go looking for a whole new tool to do
Hmm.
some aspect of our business. Look first at the tools that you're already using and see how they've implemented or augmented what they do with AI. I mean, the use of AI to help identify and expand on contact information, that's huge. That's incredibly helpful. So thanks for pointing that out. Last question for you, Ali. What advice would you give agency owners who are kind of considering working with or partnering with other platforms, the likes of which we've been talking about all day?
One of the first things you want to think about when you bring in a partner, and this is probably due to some of the stops and starts we've had in our journey, is what will you do with that partnership if you're thinking about it beyond just having a badge on your website. So I think a lot of times we think about new certifications or new partnerships as a thing that adds, credibility to our offering. And while that's true, there is a level of kind of like titration when you're doing that in like science and chemistry class. There's a certain point that it's effective, and beyond that point it's not going to do anything else for you. It doesn't dilute. So what are you going to do with that partnership? And you have to build a plan and have someone own that, because ultimately if you're not getting an ROI from that partnership, it's not a good thing for you, it's not a good thing for the partner program either. I always want to be someone's best case study and best customer, and if I can't be that, then it's probably going to cause me to pause and think about whether or not I should move forward.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm taking a lot of this to heart too, because we haven't really had much of a formal partner program at Agorapulse for agencies. It's something we've talked about for years. It's something we'd love to be able to do, but we also want to do it well.
Mhm.
So I appreciate your insights here, and they're kind of helping me think about, oh, okay, this is something we could do in 2025. So thank you. You've been a terrific guest. I appreciate you so much. We'll have all those links, like I said, in the show notes. But for those who want to learn more about you and connect with you, where can they go?
The best place to find me personally is probably on LinkedIn. Again, I love that platform a lot. There's also a website that I connect the podcast that I'm doing and videos over at alischwanke.com. But if you're a HubSpot user and you happen to want to take advantage of our free videos, our libraries, our webinars, you can search YouTube for HubSpot hacks. That subscription will get you all the videos there. And then over at simplestrat.com is where we're going to find our services, and then additionally more resources there.
Terrific. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, all of you, for listening again. We will have all those links in the show notes, but that's all the time we've got for today. Don't forget to find Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition on Apple and drop me a review. I'd love to know what you think, what questions you have, what you'd like to see us address in a future issue. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by Agorapulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.